Hello, welcome to a new gear review episode. In this episode I am testing out the new camera from OM system, OM-1, and along with the camera I'm also having the Olympus 300mm f4. This is not a camera that I own, but this is a camera that my father owns. He just got it a couple of weeks ago and I've been so lucky to lend it now for a week, so I'm gonna test it out. I'm not gonna go like in-depth review on the whole camera. I think I'll just gonna focus on how the camera handles when it comes to bird photography. I'm really enjoying bird photography lately and I've done a lot of it, so I think I'm just gonna focus on how this camera handles when it comes to bird photography. So this camera is the latest model from OM system, previously Olympus, as probably most people know. And it has this new bird autofocusing function in it. It's seems to be doing really good. It's really kind of similar to my own camera, Canon RF or R5. So I'm gonna compare it a little bit with my camera. I have my camera also here, the Canon R5 with the 400mm. So I'm gonna compare a little bit with the autofocusing, do a little bit on Olympus, a little bit on the Canon, and then later compare them in post-processing. That will be later in the episode. But for now, I'm testing out this Olympus camera, or OM camera, sorry. As you probably some people know, I was a huge Olympus fan back in the day. I still have a really soft spot when it comes to the Olympus cameras. But lately, with the whole thing that was going on with Olympus and the transfer they did to Yip and all that stuff, and we didn't hear anything for a couple of years, I just couldn't wait. I just jumped ship and went for Canon. But I guess if this camera came out a little bit earlier, OM-1, I would most likely just have waited for the OM-1 and bought that one, because for now I just done a little bit testing for half an hour, and I have to say I'm quite impressed with the autofocusing system, and also the sensor seems to do way better than the previous models. Like I had the EM1X and the EM1 Mark III, and they were great cameras, but at the moment you zoomed a little bit in, they started to get a little bit pixelated, and that has to do with the small sensor, of course. But this camera seems to do way better. There's something they've done in the camera just makes it looks like it has better resolution. It might probably do with the backlit sensor that they have here, but it just seems like the pictures are sharper and has more resolution, if that makes any sense. But you can definitely zoom a little bit more in on these pictures, so they've done a really good job here. So I'm really looking forward to testing this out more. Right now I am in this kind of camouflage tent that I put up, and I've made like a small feeding station in front of me here, where I put up a couple of tree stumps and put some food around it to get some birds and take some pictures of them. For now I've only seen the great and the blue tit, and also the chaffinch bird, bokfink. So I've managed to take some pictures of them using the new bird autofocusing system here, and the system is really good at finding the bird and picking it up, and it's very little I have to do to nail the focus on the bird. So when I have the bird autofocusing on, it kind of finds the birds already with putting this white frame around the bird, and if I put the focus on top of that one, it goes for the head, and I just get sharp images most of the time. I have to see later, but for now it seems like it's nailing most of the pictures really good, so I have a really good hit rate on the pictures. So yeah, I'm really impressed with how it works. There's a little thing that is bothering me a little bit with this autofocusing system, and that has to do with this kind of white frame it puts around the bird, because it puts a white frame around the whole bird, and then it puts another white frame around the bird's head, and when you also put down the AF focus button on top of that, it kind of creates these green spots where it kind of nails the latest, no, not the latest, but where it really hits the focus. And when all of that stuff happens, it just covers the whole bird, especially when you're photographing these kind of small birds. So it's really hard to see how the bird is standing or positioning itself. So for now I'm just holding it down and just hope that I get a picture where he has a good position or a stand. There might be some functions to remove this and still get the same pictures in the camera, but I haven't really gone in depth in the settings. I'm just using the settings that my father have put up and also tweaking it a little bit to suit my style of photography. So I haven't really gone in depth there. For now it works. It's just something that I have to get used to, and still I get really good pictures. So for now I'm just gonna leave it like that and continue. I do have this camera for a week, so I'm not just only gonna be here doing this kind of taking pictures of these birds as this video station. I'm also gonna take it a little bit more out in the field. So not today, but let's say tomorrow or the next day I will take it out and test it more. So I hope you stay tuned and enjoy this episode. All right. Alright, we are the second day with testing out the new OM-1 camera. So today I have the same setup as yesterday, OM-1 with a 300mm, and also I have my own personal camera, the Canon R5 with the 400 plus the 1.4 teleconverter. So this is 560mm f4, and this is equivalent full frame 600mm f4. So you can see the size difference are quite huge, and also the weight difference is way more on this one than this one. So the whole combo here with the camera and the lens is actually the same price as just the camera house on the Canon. But I've tried both today. We were lucky to get a dipper here in this river, really close. So he did some really good pictures for us, or photos for us today. So I got a lot of pictures on this one along with the video, 40 frame per second video on this one. And I also got some less better pictures of this one because the dipper went further up the river after I was done with this one. So I got a little bit less better one with this. But also did some video 120 frames with this one. So first off, the autofocusing finds the dipper really easily. I have a little bit issues with locking it all the time. Sometimes when I press the autofocus, it jumps to other rock or somewhere else in the screen. So I have to make sure that I have the focus point as well on the dipper. This might just be because of I'm using the settings wrong or something, but for me it was a little bit hassle. But when I just moved the focus point along with where the dipper was, there was no problem. Just found the dipper straight away. This one is a little bit better for me, but that's probably because I personally use this way more, so I'm more used to it. This one just finds the dipper straight away, unless the dipper is hiding behind something, it struggles a little bit. But I'll show a couple of pictures I took with this one. I'm really happy for now with the results when looking at it. He was really close, so there's going to be some good pictures there and some less good pictures here. So I'll just show you a little bit of both. And I think that's it from this place. Tomorrow we're thinking of heading into this place called Ulvik, where we're hoping to see the northern lapwing. So I'm going to test out a little bit with this one, filming it, flying and so on. So hopefully we'll capture some picture of that one. But yeah, I think that's it for this place, and we're gonna move out to the next place. All right. Yes, this is day 3 of testing out the OM-1 camera. Today I am in Ulvik and we are along this coastline here where there's a lot of bird life. And the goal today was to test out bird in flight, mostly pictures bird in flight with this one. The birds are a little bit skittish here, so it's gonna be it has been hard to find birds in flight and get a good pictures of them, but I've tried at least. For now it looks like the camera does find a bird quite easily. There are buildings and everything around here as well, so this is kind of people living here as well, so there is sometimes the focus just hits or focusing on the buildings instead of the bird if the bird flies in front of it. So that I think is unavoidable with no matter what camera I have when it comes to bird in flight. But it seems like it finds the birds really easy, so I can track them quite easy in the sky and then just put down the shutter or press down the shutter, and it seems to doing just fine there. I don't think I'm losing that much hit rate here, so I think most of the pictures that I've done are actually quite in focus. Let me just see. So yeah, it does seems like it's really good hit rate. There's a couple of misses, so I would probably put around, I don't know, 70, 80, 90% hit rate. That's probably something I have to check out when I get back to my computer. But using the Olympus system and using this Micro Four Thirds system, the f value or the bokeh or out of focus areas is quite high. So let's say if I have f4 here, that's the same as f8 on a full frame when it comes to bokeh and how much it is out of focus in the background. So the background is quite noticeable, especially when it flies up in the skies and you have this kind of houses in the background. You can easily see that there's houses there. So that's a little bit minus at this area. But I tried it out and I must say I'm quite impressed with the bird focusing there. It really finds the bird, it doesn't miss a lot, and it makes it really easy to do bird in flight. So the settings I'm currently using is one 3200 of a second and the lowest f value. So I'm also using the teleconverter on this one, the 1.4 teleconverter. So it's gonna be a f5.6 in this case, 420 millimeter Micro Four Thirds and 840 millimeter full frame equivalent. So it's a little bit hard to find the bird too when it does the bird in flight, but I want to get a little bit closer, so that's the risk I'm gonna take. But for now it seems to do quite well. The goal was to find the northern lapwing. I did get a couple of pictures of him. I've only seen 2 here at the moment, and they're pretty far away in places where it's hard to get close. So I just have to sit around and wait. But there's a lot of other seabirds here, so I'll just try a little bit more, and then I'll also try a little bit with my own camera, the Canon R5, and yeah, see how it goes. So I hope you enjoy the pictures and videos I've got for you. Welcome to my little studio. So I am now finished testing out the OM-1 system. I had it for approximately 1 week, where I got to field test it 3 days. I don't have a camera with me anymore, but I can Photoshop it in, so you can stand here so you can see it. But unfortunately I had to give it back to my father because it's his camera. But thanks to him for lending it to me. I really appreciate that. It was really fun to use. It is such a, I would say, a huge upgrade. Not huge, but it's a big upgrade from the previous cameras, because I have previously owned the EM-1 X and the EM-1 Mark III, as well as 2 as well before that. But it is a big upgrade from both in the sensor and the focusing system. So those are the two things I'm going to focus on here, and I am focusing on the video, is the bird tracking and kind of also the resolution or the pictures that are coming out of the sensor or the camera. So yeah, unfortunately on the day 3, when I was trying to get birds in flight, I did not manage to get any good pictures. Mostly that is not the camera's fault, that is more the conditions and the place I was in. You cannot not always get good pictures every time you're out, but the birds were just too far away, and I would say that the birds that was far away was much closer to the background, so I did not get any good pictures from it. So if the birds were way closer, it would have been much better, but unfortunately they were too far away. They were too skittish this day, I would say. So I did not get any good pictures there that I wanted to post in the beginning of this review. But I have a couple of pictures in my Lightroom that we can go through that is unedited, but I will just show you how the focus kept up with the bird. I think the tracking was doing really good there compared to the situation it was in, because the bird was really close to the background behind it, and I don't think that my Canon would have done any better job at tracking the bird. But yeah, let's dive into it. I think I want to start with day 1, where I was at the feeding station in my camouflage tent. So I can start with, I have 1 pictures of the taken with the R5 and 1 with the OM-1. So I can put them next to each other. So we have the R5 on the left here and the OM-1 on the right. And there's a little bit different settings here, because if I remember correctly, I was hoping to get the bird's landing, so it spread his wing a little bit. That's why I had a higher shutter speed here. But the ISO is still, it's like a little bit higher, but still decent for the R5. But first off the bat, I must say that the images that comes out from the R5 has a much higher pixels or resolution than the ones coming out from OM-1. So if I zoom in, for example, it's gonna be way more zoomed in on the R5 than on the OM-1. So if you can see here up to the left here, you can see that this is already pretty much zoomed in, but if you keep track on this square here, if I change it, it's gonna get a little bit bigger on this picture. And the reason for that is that the pixels that are coming out of the R5 is 8,200 approximately times 5,500, while on the OM-1 it is 5,200 times 3,900. So there is a huge difference in pixels there, or resolution on the pictures. But anyways, just looking at the OM-1, zooming this far in, this is 100% in, you can see that this picture has a lot of detail in it. You can see some of the details in the feathers. It is pretty sharp, it is pretty good detail. I think the focus probably hit a little bit better on the, it seems a little bit more blurry on the bird. It might have moved a little bit. It was not standing still. These birds are really hyper, so they don't stand still for long. But this is sharpened. It's not, I have not done any, not unsharpened, but I have not done any sharpening or reducing of noise on this one. So these are just a little bit of basic edits in Lightroom. But overall, I think this camera captures a lot of detail with such a small sensor, and it is way better than the previous cameras, I must say. So I was quite impressed looking at the pictures here and seeing how sharp and how much detail I get from that tiny sensor. So that is a huge up from previous cameras. So I have nothing to complain here. This is really good pictures coming right out of the camera. So I just wanted to show that when it comes to the resolution and the sensor difference in sensors and how good the pictures are actually coming out from OM-1. So that is a huge upgrade from previously. Okay, let's go to day 2 with the dipper. I have one taken with the OM-1 and one taken with the R5. I just put them next to each other. So we have the OM-1 on the left and the R5 on the right. And these two are unedited. There is not done any edits on this. So if I go on this one, on the develop tool, I have not done anything. This is raw. This is right out of the camera. And you can already see that you get a lot of colors out of the camera, like from the raw files. I did not know that you got this much saturation. It's almost like a saturation boost added on the raw file from the camera. Because you see on the R5 it's much more plain, which I'm used to in a raw file. But for some reason you get a lot of color in the OM-1. And that can be both good and bad, I guess, but for now it's really nice. Like, it almost looks like the OM-1 picture is edited a little bit, but it's not. It's right out of the camera. But zooming in 100%, you can see that this picture is tack sharp. It cannot get any better than this. The only problem I can pick on is that the focus picked on the wing instead of the face. So the wing is a little bit more sharper than his eye and his face, but the same problem happened with the R5. The focus kind of hit on the wing and not the eyes. I'm really used to that with the photographing the dipper, and that's because of the eye is so dark and the head is so dark that it doesn't find the eye straight away unless you have really good light. But a little bit of sharpening and a little bit of reducing noise, this picture is like perfect. But yeah, it is tack sharp. Like, look at this. This dipper was standing still a lot. So this is a much less moving bird than the previous they had with the gray tit and the blue tit. So this is way less moving. So it's much easier to get a sharp picture. So I'm just blown away with the quality from this picture from a Micro Four Thirds. Like, I've used the Micro Four Thirds for several years before I switched to Canon. And I got maybe a couple of times really sharp pictures like this, but then it was like the perfect light, all the settings were perfect. But here it's like moody weather, it's raining a little bit, I only have 400 seconds, it's like still bang, so sharp. So that is super impressive. This was a good day with the dipper, and so happy that I got these pictures and the videos as well. I think when I look at the videos, it seems like I don't have the video right here, but you saw it in the video before this. I think they add some kind of sharpening on top of the video, because it looks almost like the bird has been sharpened in the video, but I don't know. If somebody knows, they can leave a comment and tell me about it. But for me, it seems like it has been sharpened by the camera when it films. But yeah. Otherwise, the quality is still really good coming out of the camera, even for video and pictures. But yeah, that's for day 3. Let's go on day 2. Let's go on day 3. Even though I did not get good birds in flight here, I did get some good pictures of a curlew. So that kind of saved the whole day. I got a lot of good pictures and videos with both cameras there. Unfortunately, I didn't get any good birds in flight of that one, but good pictures is a good day. But I'll start with the birds in flight. So I have set up a series of pictures here taking with 2 ducks that I tracked when they flew. So I can start with the first picture I got. That was right off the bat, autofocus. It hit the background, so I was a little bit unlucky. But this is continuous autofocus as well, or rapid fire. So the next picture, it hit straight away. So that was quite fast. There was not like anything in between or anything. It just found it straight away right after. And zooming in, it is a little bit blurry or soft. And I think that's because of the bird is a little bit far away. There are some heat waves in the picture. If you saw on my video of the northern lapwing, you can see that there's a lot of heat waves going around because of the sun hitting the water and all the stuff. So that's a little bit of making distortion. And the birds are moving and I'm also moving, tracking the birds. So there's a lot of things happening here that makes it really hard to get a text sharp picture of this. And also they're flying a little bit away from me, like as well, away and like in both directions. To the left and further away. But yeah, let's move on. It still tracks them. This one is a little bit sharper. Also 3 birds here, so maybe the camera is struggling to pick which bird they want to focus on, but for now it seems like it's taking the closest one. This one is a little bit softer. And then you get this one. This is actually quite sharp. This is text sharp with a little bit of sharpening and noise reduction here. I think that will be good. But I just don't like the whole scenery here, so I just didn't do anything about it. But I think probably this seems really good. So this one is sharp, and then it got a little bit softer again, and now, but it still keeps on the focus here, still tracks them. So that was those guys. So I think that's like, that was 1 miss. So this is 9 pictures, 1 miss, and a couple of them were a little bit in soft end. But overall, I would give it like 85, 80, 88, 85% hit rate there. Let's go for next birds. So there's kind of the same, but there was a different couple. So here I think it tracks this one because it looks a little bit sharper. So I think this is the one that's getting tracked here. So it goes, keeps tracking it. All of them a little bit soft, but these are a little bit closer to the water, so it's going to be more air distortions or heat distortions here, I think. There it missed. Then it got back to it, tracked it, and then it missed again. And then it's like in between. So this is kind of a miss. Still in between. So here's it starts to struggle. Then it got back to the bird again. Tracks it, gets a little bit soft again, and then yeah, so this one was a little bit higher struggle. So I think that's because it is closer to the ground. The background is closer to the bird as well than if it was higher up in the sky. So this one was a little bit less unfortunate. But again, I do not think the Canon would have done any better job here. It's just the conditions were not in my favor. Birds are too far away. The background is also closer to the bird. So the autofocus is gonna struggle no matter what. So if the bird was way closer and the background was further away, I don't think that camera would have struggled at all, and you would have gotten some text sharp pictures. Okay, let's see on the curlew. I had a couple of pictures of the curlew, and the reason why I want to show the curlew is to show the difference between autofocus areas on the full frame and the autofocus areas on the Olympus or OM-1. Because I showed you a little bit, I talked about it a little bit in the day 3, the difference, because with the micro four thirds, the autofocus area kinda is half as effective as on a full frame. So a f4 lens on Olympus or OM-1 Olympus lens will be f8 equivalent on a full frame. That's a hard word to say. Okay, so I have I picked out, I think this one was the best one, and these ones. They're approximately the same distance, and I was standing on the same spot. The only reason that the bird has moved a little bit is because I had to get the camera from my father, because when I have a Canon camera shooting, my father has the Olympus camera shooting, and then we swapped. So I had to, when I first got there with the Canon, so I got this picture on the right here with the Canon, and then when I wanted to try at Olympus, I had to go up to him, swap it, and then go back down, and that kinda, after that the bird moved a little bit, so it moved a little bit further down, down to the left of the beach here. So when I had the OM-1, he was a little bit further to the left of where I got him with the Canon. But anyways, I think this is approximately the same distance, because this is 800mm and this is 840mm on a full frame. and you can, I think the distance is approximately the same here. So if I zoom, you can already see that the bokeh here, this is a full frame f5.6, and this is also 5.6, but it's a Micro Four Thirds 5.6. You can see the foreground here is so much more out of focus, and the background of water is so much more out of focus compared to here. So there's a little bit out of focus here and here, but you can still see like the ripples in the water or the waves, and much more detail or much more shaped looking rocks compared to here. They're like almost like blurred 100% out here. So there's a huge difference at this f value. So this would be kind of f11 on a full frame. So if I took this, if I had the Canon and put it up to f11, I would get almost the same autofocus area as the Olympus is giving me now. So that was just to show you the difference between a full frame autofocus and Micro Four Thirds autofocus. But still, super happy with the pictures that OM-1 is getting here. It's pretty sharp. It's actually really sharp for this distance. There is some heat waves or air distortions going on there because it's so close to the beach. But so happy that I spotted this curlew on the last part of the day. So yeah, I just wanted to show that, just so people can kind of see the difference. I think this is probably people are gonna say that this is not comparable, but I was standing on the same spot, and it is almost the same distance between me and the bird. It's just the bird moved a little bit further down to the beach, but I think the situation is almost identical. I almost had to have the camera right next to me and just quickly swap to be identical, but I think that was a good example. But yeah, that is what I have to say about the camera. OM-1, huge upgrade from previous cameras, and if you are a Olympus shooter and wants to do and likes to do bird photography, I really highly recommend upgrading this. If this camera came out a couple years earlier than it did, and I was still using the Olympus system, I would not have sold away my Olympus. I think I would just have kept it, gotten the OM-1, and gotten the 150 to 400 millimeter instead of the 400 on the Canon. I think that would have been I would have been happy with that. I kind of want to try out the 150 to 400 millimeter, but I don't know anybody that has it. It's hard to get hold of. It's short on stock. I heard that they only produce like one a day or something, and there's a high waiting list. But yeah, if the situation was a little bit different and the whole transaction or transfer from Olympus to Yip into OM system has gone faster, with more information out to the users, I would probably have waited a little bit longer and waited for this camera and been super happy with this camera. So yeah, I do highly recommend this camera, so thumbs up. This is a good step in the right direction for OM systems. So it's going to be interesting to see what their next camera is going to be. So yeah, I think that's it for this gear review. I hope you enjoyed the whole episode and it was helpful. Again, this was just to cover the bird photography. There's a lot of stuff with the OM-1 system camera that I have not tested, have not checked out. It was a whole new system, a whole menu system. Everything was different from the previous cameras. So this is kind of an amateur review, but still I hope it was helpful for some of you. And yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.